So Serverless360, if you're not familiar with it, it's a monitoring platform for Microsoft Azure. We've got four key areas that we focus on. So the first one's business applications, where we're trying to provide value by making an Azure solution accessible for the support team to manage your day-to-day operations, but reducing that learning curve from having to have extensive Azure skills to be able to do anything in the support area. The second area is business activity monitoring. So again, it's all about making it easier to support your solution. So in addition to monitoring the technical components, business activity monitoring, or BAM, is about trying to monitor and manage the business transactions. So you can let your support team or business super users self-service how your solution works. Third area is Azure Documenter. So with Azure Documenter, we're trying to create snapshot documentation, either auto-triggered on a schedule or manually triggered on demand. And it's about documenting the current state assessment of your solution from the perspective of how it's configured, from things like cost, and also from a governance perspective. The fourth and final module is cost analyzer. So cost analyzer is about looking at the ongoing cost of your solution to try and make it easy to see how much money you're spending, track changes in that spending, to create monitoring so you're alerted and make it easy to set that monitoring up so you can know if you're going outside of your budget, and also to try and optimize those costs to make sure you're efficiently spending your money. So we've had loads going on in Serverless360 for a long time. I just want to kind of call out the roadmap going back over the last year, and then we've added things like service principal monitoring, we've added Synapse capability, and then most recently, we launched Cost Analyzer as a preview. Now, a couple of the features that we've released, which is this feature we have, which is aimed about how can I support my solution and make it easy to allow my support team to get involved, so you don't always need to go to the solution developers or the solution experts. You can allow that democratization, so your kind of frontline support teams and second level support teams can go in and participate. So we added some features here around failure monitoring based on runs. This was a Logic App feature where we wanted to be able to use the Logic App API to check how many runs you've had that have failed recently, and it's kind of almost like a data monitoring type feature. We added capability around resource graphs. So if anybody's followed my blog before, I talk quite a lot about resource graph, and we added features to be able to use queries on a scheduled basis. So you can, every 10 minutes you can run a resource graph query, and it would tell you if something's not as you expect it to be. So that's quite a good feature. And then we've also added capability to resubmit event grid dead letter messages to an API endpoint. So one of the feature or the background of this feature was that when you resubmit an event grid message, normally you push it back to the grid and all of your subscribers get that message, which is quite a common scenario, and that's the default. But sometimes we had customers who didn't want every system to get that event again. They wanted just the one endpoint that failed. So we added some features to be able to resubmit that direct to the API endpoint the event grid would have pushed it to. And so that's a new feature came out in March. I think with a couple of these features, we'll have a quick look at one of them today, but then we'll probably do some deeper dive videos on these features so we can show in a bit more detail what you can do. So we're going to take a quick look at the Logic App feature for failed runs. So here we've got my business application set up, and you can see I've got the tree here shows me the detail of how my environment's set up. So you can see in my enterprise integration, I've got my platform, common services, my integration apps, and then I've also got this little area down here where I've got some of my feature demos. So I can see everything's looking really great at the minute. We've got this this green light on this business app here, but I've only got one resource in it, which is this new Logic App for this demo. And what I can do, if you go here, you'd see a bit of an overview of the Logic App. We can go into the monitoring tab, and this is the new feature that we've added here. So previously you've been able to monitor with things like the metrics down here. So I can see I've got all the standard metrics a Logic app has. But what I can also do is turn on failed runs. So what this will do is when your monitoring profile runs, it'll go and check that Logic app, run a query for any failed runs, and then it'll kind of check the thresholds, and it'll alert based on that. I can also see here I've got things like I can put a note in that I might want the support team to be aware of when they see that alert trigger. So what I can do is we can have this turned on, and then when our Logic app gets this error, we should see it fire up. Next up, we've got some enhancements in our business activity monitoring area. So business activity monitoring was about managing the business transactions rather than the technical components. And the first feature was a customer request where they had a lot of data getting processed, and they'd often need to be able to track and look for, like, say, multiple orders at the same time. So we added a couple of features to allow people to have, like, say, a list of orders you want to look for, and it would do a search and just find the ones that you need, just to speed up that ability for a user to troubleshoot problems. So we're going to have a look at that one in a moment. And then the second feature we added was about the indication of errors, so just enhancing the tree view and the dashboard, so you could see much more easily what the status of any applications were and any that were having a problem. Over here in my business activity monitoring view, so the first feature we added was in the dashboard area. A lot of customers like the ability to easily see which applications are healthy and not. So when you've got the tree view on the left here, if you have any applications that go unhealthy, it would cascade turning the business process red. So if we say my branch office one went unhealthy, it would go red and it would cascade up the tree. So you get like a good view there. But sometimes you just want that ability to have, say, a single view that you might want to put on a monitor on the wall, and you can just use this health status here to be able to see any that are healthy at the top. You can also filter this view if you wanted to, so you want to only look for errors or something like that. So that really supports that, just that quick glance, is there anything unhealthy, is there not? The second feature that we added, so if you've seen any of our real world demos, we've got this one about branch integration here, where we have branch offices that archive files to an FTP site and they get processed by Data Factory. And we have a BAM solution where Data Factory can tell the support user what files it's processing. So you can see here we've got a batch job that runs at the bottom, and then we've got a transaction for each of the files that get processed. And I've got these file names here. So if I open one up, you'll see I've just got these couple of stages. So we've got the stage of the file started getting archived, it was completed successfully. And the problem that some users had was that they need to trace these files. So you could go and do a query for a file name, but we added the feature so a user could just come along and say, right, I'm looking for the file name. I've got a list of files that the branch office gave me. We can just save that as a CSV list, and we could run that query. That just helps us really quickly find, maybe you're looking for 10 orders out of 150 you've processed this morning. Same kind of idea, you just put a list of the ones that you want to look for. We'll find them quickly through that advanced query, and then you can go and troubleshoot from there. You could see, what was the pipeline that ran this job. So, in my demo here, I've got some details about the pipeline, the location, the file that got processed, and it can help you work out those problems, solutions to those problems much quicker. The final thing we wanted to talk about for this month's release was escalation policies. So with Serverless360, we're trying to spend a lot of time helping it mature your support process. And it's not just solely about the technical resources in Azure, it's about building a great support service for your application. So one of the things that we wanted to do was add escalation policies, where the idea is, let's say you've had an issue that happened, it's been sat with the support team for a few hours and nobody's really picked it up yet, or it hasn't had an update recently or something like that. We can have a policy where we can define an escalation so that if something hasn't happened, somebody else can pick the issue up. So maybe in this case, on the screen there, you'd have an escalation from level 1 to level 2, and then somebody else would pick it up because it hasn't been resolved quickly. And it's all about trying to make sure the problem doesn't get any worse by getting things dealt with quickly. A good example might be, let's say you've had a lot of logic app errors. They've just been sat there building up over time. Nobody's dealt with it. And after you get so many errors, that just suddenly becomes such a big an issue to sort out. So it's all about making your team focus on getting the job done. I think we'll do some follow-up videos where we'll dig into a lot more detail about this escalation policy. But I think we get a lot of feedback that these are the kind of problems customers have in the real world, and I think it's important that we invest some time in our solution, helping people solve these challenges. Also, if you would like to try the product, there's a QR code attached here. Come and have a chat with us, have a demo, try it out yourself. Our consultant team are really keen to help customers be successful, so we'd love to help you solve those problems that you have in supporting Azure solutions.